It's time for Brush Street Beat presented by McLaren Healthcare, and today's guest is former Tigers pitcher and current member of the Fox Sports Detroit broadcast team, Dan Petry. Dan, it's great to see you. Thank you so much for taking the time to join us again.
No, it's always great talking to you, and so much to talk about today, too.
We have a lot to talk about, and we're going to kick it off with talking some Tigers baseball. It's an exciting week for the Tigers. Tarik Skubal is making his start tonight, and Casey Mize is making his start. Their MLB debuts, both of them this week. So Casey Mize tomorrow. Like I said, an exciting week. But last night we saw Matt Boyd on the mound. So the first question I want to ask you, Dan, is: are you a little worried about Matt Boyd?
Well, I think everybody's a little bit concerned, but last night's outing, there were definitely some positives to take out of that. You know, we've been really breaking down his slider and how he's been working on it for really since the midpoint of last year. So hopefully he's found something in his delivery or his grip or something that will improve that and be a building block in going forward. But it just seemed like it was one of those outings again where he had 9 strikeouts but had a rough time keeping the ball in the ballpark. And that'll just be something that, again, there's always something that'll be tweaked and something to work on, and that'll be something that Matthew will go back and say, okay, my pitchers are doing what they want to now. I just got to figure out how to keep the ball in the ballpark.
When this season began, Dan, we were looking at starting pitching as being a strength for this club. Obviously, Jordan Zimmerman goes down. Unfortunately, Matt Boyd's struggling. Ivan Nova now is on the, I believe, 10-day injury list. So almost out of necessity, even though we're so eager to see them, thank heaven the Tigers do have some young arms, maybe unproven at the major league level, that maybe can come in, for lack of a better term, stop the bleeding.
Well, the big problem too is just that the starting pitching has not gotten deep into the ball game. I think you've got one start over 5 innings, and that's by Spencer Turnbull. He's went 6 one time and 7 another. And, it's just killing the bullpen. You've got, multiple guys on multiple days in a row pitching. And so that's a big thing that they want to kind of alleviate, is get those starters deep into the game. With Tarik Skubal, though, because he was late arriving to summer camp, he's going to be on a pitch count, though, unfortunately. It's a good idea, certainly. You don't want to blow out a prospect like that, but, it's going to take him a while to build up. But Casey Mize is a little further advanced, and hopefully he'll have success during the game and will be able to get deep into the ball game. But I just think that this is just a great thing for their future. I just think it was very important for them to get up to the major leagues this year and get some experience rather than sit down in Toledo and play these live BP and inter squad games. This is going to go a long way in their development. Hopefully they have great success, but even if they don't, it's really good for their future.
Dan, with that being said, we're all excited to see these guys make their MLB debuts, and you have been in that situation before, and you know what the pressure is like, what the atmosphere is like. What are some realistic expectations for Tarik Skubal and Casey Mize this week?
Well, the one thing that probably is a good thing is that it's in Chicago, of course, but there's no fans. So you're going to be able to have some natural adrenaline going. You're not going to have to worry about a hostile environment. It'd be nice if they got their debut in Comerica Park in front of home fans. So that's one thing that'll be a little bit of a calming factor. But the thing I look for tonight, especially with Skubal, is he can't get caught up in this 6-game losing streak the Tigers are on. He just has to go out and just say, look, I've got to just go out and take care of what I can do. That's go, as hard as I can for probably 40, 50 pitches. They'll probably have them set up for, and just put in a good performance. And there'll be times, I hope it doesn't, but of course I think there'll be times where, they'll probably have some struggles, but that is the learning process. These are, especially this White Sox lineup, this is a good White Sox lineup, good right-handed hitters, very strong. And with Tarik Skubal throwing left-handed, they'll be loaded up again on the right side. So It's just, again, having that experience. They'll have some success, but there'll probably be some bumps in the road, and it's just how you handle those going forward.
Dan, I want to go in the Wayback Machine if we can here for a second. I'm going to go back to July 8th, 1979. A young kid out of California named Dan Peaches Petry makes his major league debut against the Milwaukee Brewers. What's going through your mind? Do you get reflective? Are you emotional? If you were to give advice either to Screwball or Mize, what would you tell them? Because obviously you went through the same thing.
That is the Wayback Machine. You're right, Art. But, I think what I would tell them, and I know Gardy does the same thing because he did it with last night with Isaac Paredes, is just go out and play the game. You can't go out there and just get wrapped up in the, hey, I'm in the big leagues now, and oh my gosh, now I'm facing Tim Anderson and Jose Abreu, and start thinking about all the names because – yeah, I remember, oh my gosh, I'm going up against Robin Yount and Paul Molitor and Cecil Cooper. And at that time, Sixto Lescano was really, really having a good year and a good player. And you can't get wrapped up in that. It's just a matter of, hey, I'm up here for a reason. And somebody thinks that I'm good enough. And you just have to go out there and just perform like that's believing in yourself. That's why they have you up here. And don't try to change anything and to get too wrapped up. But with that being said, how can you blame them for not having some anxiety and a little bit of butterflies going into that game?
Dan, you mentioned Isaac Paredes, who made his MLB debut last night, and he had a really good second at bat. What did you think of his overall performance for his debut?
Yeah, I was watching him in the batter's box, and the thing that kind of impressed me was he's got an open stance, and then his left foot, I call it diving into the plate. He takes that left foot and places it towards home plate, which to me, if I'm looking as a pitcher, I would pitch him inside. And the White Sox did that, and they kind of jammed him the first time. But the second time up, they did the same thing. They jammed him, but he's strong enough to be able to lift that ball into left field and knock in the 2 runs. So it's going to be a constant learning, curve for him where big league pitchers will find a hole. They'll say, hey, we got to throw him inside, and then we'll throw the breaking balls down and away. But he laid off a couple of tough pitches too, so it's just going to be a matter of watching him several times, see if hitter or pitchers find a hole, see how they attack it. And then again, he just has to adjust to what the opposition is doing to him.
This is a really crucial stretch of games. We knew that the Tigers started off very well. Everything kind of worked out for them. And a lot of home games, teams that, Pittsburgh, teams that they should beat, Kansas City, they split with Cincinnati. We knew, for lack of a better term, that this 2-week stretch between the White Sox and Indians could be the defining moment for the Tigers. I know teams or players don't try to get caught up in that, Dan, but I have to go back to hockey. I mean, when the Red Wings were in a losing streak, they'd say, all we have to do is just win a hockey game. That's it. Just win a hockey game. That's our focus. I would imagine that's the same for any professional athlete, for a baseball player as well. How do the Tigers just go out tonight, regardless of everything that they're facing, all the adversity, and win a baseball game?
Well, you're right. I mean, this is a rough stretch, and you certainly don't want to, have a rough series in Chicago with Cleveland coming up this weekend where they've lost 20 in a row. So, but I'm of the belief, and I could be totally wrong, but I really believe this, is that when you have young players come up, they can energize a team because they're like, hey, we've been hearing about Tarek Skubal and Casey Mize for so long that here they are. They're here. And I believe that those guys behind them are going to be energized. Like, I want to play behind this guy. And as they get going and have some success, they're going to get a little bit more fired up. And they're going to want them to have successful debuts. So they're going to want to maybe bear down a little bit harder on each and every at bat. So that doesn't mean that they're going to win, but I really think there's an uplifting, time that these young players will provide, or at least I'm hoping, but I really believe that. And hopefully they'll be able to get to Dylan Cease tonight, who's been tough on them, and hopefully there'll be a good outcome.
It's definitely going to be an exciting week for the Tigers here, Dan. Something else that's going on that's really exciting are the NHL playoffs. And we have to ask you, we know that your son, Jeff Petry, playing in Montreal. They're playing today and tomorrow, I believe, against the Philadelphia Flyers. What has it been like for you? Have you been watching all of these games? Are you talking to Jeff? How are you feeling during all of this?
Well, I have been, watching most of them. It's funny, though, because some of them, they start at 8 o'clock, and I fall asleep at the end on some of them, so I don't get to watch the end. But they have a 3 o'clock game today. I'm going to head in to the Southfield studio because I don't want to miss anything. So I'll be there in plenty of time, to watch the game and do prep work and everything to get ready for tonight's 8 o'clock game in Chicago. But thank you for telling me that. I didn't know about tomorrow. So I'll have to make plans for that one too. But yeah, this is a big game because Montreal doesn't want to go down 3-1. So I anticipate them coming out just like they did in game 2 and just kind of hopefully taking it right to them from the very first puck drop.
Dan, thank you so much for taking the time to join us today. It's always great to catch up with you. You guys, you can tune in to Fox Sports Detroit tonight to listen to Dan and the rest of the crew break down the Tigers game. Coverage starts at 7 p.m. for an 8:10 first pitch. Tarek Skubal on the mound. It's going to be really exciting. Again, Dan, thank you for joining us. And a big thank you to McLaren Healthcare for presenting Brush Street Beat right here on the Word on Woodward.